Just him and me, he said. As it happened, Meg was out of town, visiting girlfriends, so his timing was perfect. I invited him over. An hour later he walked into Not Caught, where he hadn't been since Meg first moved in. He looked piping hot. It was early evening. I offered him a drink, asked about his family. Everyone good. He didn't ask about mine. He just went all in. Chips to the center of the table. Meg's difficult, he said. Oh, really? She's rude. She's abrasive. She's alienated half the staff. Not the first time he'd parroted the press narrative. Duchess difficult, all that bullshit. Rumors, lies from his team, tabloid rubbish, and I told him so, again. Told him I expected better from my older brother. I was shocked to see that this actually pissed him off. Had he come here expecting something different? Did he think I'd agree that my bride was a monster? I told him to step back, take a breath, really ask himself, wasn't Meg his sister-in-law? Wouldn't this institution be toxic for any newcomer? Worst case scenario, if his sister-in-law was having trouble adjusting to a new office, a new family, a new country, a new culture, couldn't he see his way clear to cutting her some slack? Couldn't you just be there for her? Help her? He had no interest in a debate. He'd come to lay down the law. He wanted me to agree that Meg was wrong and then agree to do something about it. Like what? Scold her? Fire her? Divorce her? I didn't know. But Willie didn't know either. He wasn't rational. Every time I tried to slow him down, point out the illogic of what he was saying, he got louder. We were soon talking over each other, both of us shouting. Among all the different, riotous emotions coursing through my brother that afternoon, one really jumped out at me. He seemed aggrieved. He seemed put upon that I wasn't meekly obeying him, that I was being so impertinent as to deny him, or defy him, to refute his knowledge, which came from his trusted aides. There was a script here and I had the audacity not to be following it. He was in full error mode, and couldn't fathom why I wasn't dutifully playing the role of the spare. I was sitting on the sofa, he was standing over me. I remember saying, "You need to hear me out, Willie." He wouldn't. He simply would not listen. To be fair, he felt the same about me. He called me names. All kinds of names. He said I refused to take responsibility for what was happening. He said I didn't care about my office and the people who worked for me. "Willie, give me one example of," he cut me off, said he was trying to help me. "Are you serious? Help me? Sorry, is that what you call this? Helping me?" For some reason, that really set him off. He stepped towards me, swearing. To that point I'd been feeling uncomfortable, but now I felt a bit scared. I stood, brushed past him, went out to the kitchen, to the sink. He was right on my heels, berating me, shouting. I poured a glass of water for myself, and one for him as well. I handed it to him. I don't think he took a sip. "Willie, I can't speak to you when you're like this." He set down the water, called me another name, then came at me. It all happened so fast. So very fast. He grabbed me by the collar, ripping my necklace, and he knocked me to the floor. I landed on the dog's bowl, which cracked under my back, the pieces cutting into me. I lay there for a moment, dazed, then got to my feet and told him to get out. "Come on, hit me. You'll feel better if you hit me." "Do what?" "Come on, we always used to fight." "You'll feel better if you hit me." "No, only you'll feel better if I hit you. Please, just leave." He left the kitchen, but he didn't leave Not Caught. He was in the sitting room, I could tell. I stayed in the kitchen. 2 minutes passed, 2 long minutes. He came back looking regretful and apologized. He walked to the front door. This time I followed. Before leaving he turned and called back, "You don't need to tell Meg about this." "You mean that you attacked me?" "I didn't attack you, Harold." "Fine. I won't tell her." "Good, thank you." He left. I looked at the phone. A promise is a promise, I told myself, so I couldn't call my wife, much as I wanted to. But I needed to talk to someone. So I rang my therapist. Thank God she answered. I apologized for the intrusion, told her I didn't know who else to call. I told her I'd had a fight with Willie, he'd knocked me to the floor. I looked down and told her that my shirt was ripped, my necklace was broken. We'd had a million physical fights in our lives, I told her. As boys we'd done nothing but fight. But this felt different. The therapist told me to take deep breaths. She asked me to describe the scene several times. Each time I did it seemed more like a bad dream. And made me a bit calmer. I told her, "I'm proud of myself." "Proud, Harry? Why's that?" I didn't hit him back. I stayed true to my word, didn't tell Meg. But not long after she returned from her trip, she saw me coming out of the shower and gasped. "Us, what are those scrapes and bruises on your back?" I couldn't lie to her. She wasn't that surprised, and she wasn't at all angry. She was terribly sad.